The industry standard was adding unnecessary ingredients just for visual appeal. HeLa Nutrition decided to focus on the biology of the human family. Sports media was a boys' club speaking a language that no one else wanted to learn. The GYST founders stopped waiting for a seat at the table and built their own stadium. For years, legacy giants built empires on the hard sell and the hidden filler.
Today, we deconstruct the architects who chose the hard slow over the easy fast.
Welcome to the Sixth Suite, Episode 3, The Purpose Revolution.
Hello and welcome. I'm Clare Ravenstreet.
And I'm Nikki Stone. And this is the Sixth Suite.
We're two senior media and C-suite executives who have spent our careers building and scaling brands within the system. We've even had the chance to work together before. And through it all, we noticed a gap in the conversation around leadership.
There was lots of conversations about what trailblazers were doing, but nothing around how trailblazers did it. Because we understood that it wasn't just one single great idea, but there was a sixth sense. A blend of strategic resilience and unconventional thinking that led to innovation.
So in each episode, we put a leader, a brand, or a business under the microscope. As the architect of influence, I deconstruct the external strategy. How did they build their coalition? How did they secure the resources? And how did they shape the narrative?
And as the architect of growth, I deconstruct the internal journey. Where did the resilience to persevere come from? And how did they build a culture that could withstand the pressures of scale?
This podcast is for the next generation of leaders. It's for the founders, the executives, and the innovators who are ready to move beyond inspiration and start building a blueprint for change.
The sixth is for anyone who believes the system can be rebuilt to be more equitable. And if you're looking for the tools, the insights, and the hope to do that today, then welcome to the Sixth Suite. I think this pairing is such an amazing pairing because it's the next state of the deconstruction that we've been talking about when it comes to that sort of mirage of performance and really digging into that structural integrity that we've seen the shift happen. And so today we are here. We're going to talk about the shift from the optics of growth that have happened. And we're going to talk to HeLa Nutrition, who is here with us today. Very excited, as you know. Big fan of the product, household product in our family. And we're going to deconstruct the GYST, which is
a brand very close to my heart. I think I may have jumped on it right at the beginning, but the GYST being, they started with a newsletter all about bringing a new audience into women's sports, commentary, journalism, and making that space a lot more equitable.
You introduced me to the GYST a long time ago, and I forgot that you had introduced me to the GYST. And so I was following them through a lot of their story, and it's a really interesting one because I think they really dig into that functional truth of understanding the compound interest of integrity and really what that means from a consumer standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And also that kind of old playbook of that like hidden friction, like HeLa is all about those, like the supplement aisle. Everyone else was putting like fillers in and gums and things like that to make it taste nice, but actually impacting the nutritional value of the product, which HeLa kind of obviously completely went against. And then in the sports media side, the GYST was going against that kind of exclusionary jargon that kind of like half the population, women, just didn't really have the inclination to kind of jump into and just felt a bit more exclusionary from the sports space.
Yeah, I particularly loved both of these featured founders because they really emphasize the lifetime value that a client or a consumer has for you, understanding that reach and that depth within their consumer by like multiple products, by really speaking to them in multiple channels and in multiple ways. That your growth is more organic and a lot more meaningful. Like it feels a lot more meaningful when you have that loyalty in your consumer base.
Yeah, and it's so much easier to grow if you have that trust. If you've built it off of a single core truth that you fully believe in, whether that's excluding all the fillers from nutrition or if that's making everything inclusionary for women. Like making sure you're building from that basis, definitely. And it kind of makes a kind of space for them. It makes that like moat, sovereign moat for them, where no one else, none of the big players can actually get into, because they're built from a point of truth.
Yeah, very true. And you know what? I think that is a great setup for us to talk about what's happening today in the industry.
So we've just had the Super Bowl, and obviously, being in the marketing industry, very interested in seeing all of the ads that are in there, mainly obviously on the US side, because that's where the big bucks are. I think 8 million per spot, I think it is, 30 seconds. And this year was really interesting in terms of the composition of the ads that were in there. You always see the big players. Yeah. There's always a few alcohol brands, there's a few kind of consumer CPG brands. But this year, we saw a huge concentration of AI brands. What does that mean for us?
So this is what we call sort of a Super Bowl cluster, if you will. We've seen this twice before. Once was in 2000 and once was in 2022. We saw in 2000 there was 17 different .com commercials that aired, like yourpets.com and things like that. And what we saw shortly after that was actually in March, the NASDAQ had peaked and the economy started to really slow down shortly after that.
Yeah, the .com crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we saw that again in 2022, which was known as sort of the crypto bowl, if you remember that one, we saw all of the crypto crazy in there. And later that year, we still saw that. So given that there's been a lot of predictions about the AI crash, like being upon us right now, the Super Bowl having, what was the number? Was it like 13?
Yeah, something like that.
Like ridiculous number of AI ads is really indicative of where we sort of feel about that.
Yeah.
In both of those situations before, there was a 60 to 80% of those companies that were featured in the Super Bowl were actually gone or acquired within 24 months.
Yeah, and maybe acquisition is one of the aims for them. But it's all about that kind of speculative, trying to make yourself seem bigger, smarter, cleverer than the competition, so that you can either get a buyout, or then when you actually have to follow through and produce the results, you can't. And that's when you get the crash.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you're starting to see some of that in the right sizing, for lack of better word. I say
right
that.
sizing is not nice.
It's not nice. But because we've had 30,000, sorry, it's not nice, but that's the term these companies are using to be clear on why I choose that word, because we've lost over 30,000 roles already in the first 6 weeks in our industry this year globally, between the tech giants and the media agencies.
And they're all using the excuse of AI. They're creating efficiencies, they're driving automation of maybe some of those admin tasks. And so like the rumor is one of the big marketing giants has got rid of all like medium level roles, like planner, senior planner roles, because they believe they just don't need those roles anymore because AI is going to solve everyone's problems.
I mean, listen, that when we remove entire layers, that's always concerning, because you're also devaluing the layers above that on an ongoing basis in the salary gap. So I have big issues with that as a long-term play in the agency sphere. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause at that one.
And I think it's clear in terms of what these companies are hoping for from AI, they need to deliver on quickly. So whether that's Pinterest and taking out the kind of engineers that are currently making the algorithms to show people what they want to see, AI is now taking over that. And it's yet to be seen if people are going to actually enjoy that kind of curation, if that's actually going to be able to drive the engagement within the platform. Same, I think you had an example in terms of Vice, not making their own content anymore, becoming more of a distribution channel, I guess.
Yeah, we're seeing, it feels like there's a bit of a shift away from the O&O and into the representation. And that always seems scary to me, because if you don't own your infrastructure, you don't really have a product. And if the infrastructure is your product, then are you competing with a Google? Are you competing with an Amazon? If that's your goal, amazing. Take it on. But if that's not your goal, I have a lot of question marks that, as an advisor, really make me speculative. When
Well, you're losing control of your destiny, essentially.
Yes.
When you have owned and operated, when you control the pipes, the rails, as we've spoken about in the previous episode, you can master your own destiny. You know what you're putting out there. You can sell what you have. If you are relying on the likes of the Metas and the TikToks for your distribution, or you are being a distribution channel yourself, you're at the whims of where the customer's kind of going and them changing the algorithm. When Meta removed news in Canadian news feeds, suddenly wiped so much from so many news brands and outlets, and they had no control over that whatsoever.
That was a huge impact. I mean, not that the Canadian news outlets were being compensated fairly.
No.
In that, as somebody who helped petition and fight against that bill, which I think was very poorly written, just for the record. I don't think it should have been optional. I think that if news is being shared, like we take away sovereignty from our people when we block information. Yeah. And so I don't think that information should ever be blocked, hence why we do a podcast that deconstructs how these companies actually scale and won and deconstructed in their areas, because information sharing is how rising tides raise all ships, which I'm going to say at least one more time before the day's out. So, but not all grim.
No, not all grim. People have been switching to maybe more analog methods, a bit of a kind of rebellion, I guess, against AI, buying actual hard copies of music instead of just streaming and renting. I think it's interesting, people moving more towards live music, whether that's recorded live music or in person, because then it can't be AI generated, synthesized. Not a kind of new revolution. I think there's always been these kind of revolutions in music when things become a bit too automated. The kind of diehards synthesize it. Yeah. The diehards want to go back to the originals, but we're seeing that again as a kind of trend.
We certainly, the Grammys was a great indicator of that. Love the Grammys. It really showed us this year, earlier this month, that there was this real want for acoustic, that raw, natural musical talent, right? I've sort of felt like as fake news and fake content and all of the right people are really searching for that meaningful, deep connection. Yeah. And I think when we look at the trends that happen in music, when we see that, it really tells us how much people are leaning into purpose, because they're listening to something more raw. They're listening for authenticity. Yeah. They're looking for the scratches on the albums, and even vinyl record sales have been up in the first quarter of the year, which is a huge indicator of small luxuries that people enjoy.
Yeah. And I guess that's the whole point, is people wanting to go back to that core, that purpose. And I think that's a great example of the two cases that we have today with HeLa, going back to kind of the core of what the product is and building that trust with the people that buy from them. Yeah. And then The Gist, going back to that core of who their audience are, that kind of niche, that loud minority, I guess, now in women's sports.
On that note, I think it's a really great time for us to just dive right in and get into our first case.
Let's do it. Okay, so our case study today is The Gist, which is, as I said, a brand that's very close to my heart. They came into the market 2017. 3 women founded it.
There was Rosalind, JC, and Ellen. Yeah. Ellen. And so cool. Continue.
Yeah. So no sports background, all on Bay Street, finance, but identified that gap that we've spoken about before, that kind of meaning gap, found that audience that everyone else called niche, all around women who are interested in sport.
Niche. The niche part here really got me because 49% of fans are female. And this felt like a real Isaiah Ray or Nick's moment, being like, are we calling this niche really?
Yeah.
Like, are we really talking about almost half the population?
I think also it's very different North America versus for me back home. So like in the UK, football, soccer being your like big standout sport. And that is very male dominated in terms of the audience originally, I guess. Great if you're going to a game because you can always get to the loo, no queue. Really bad from a obviously equal opportunities kind of point of view. But we have seen it changing. Here in North America, when I first moved here 10 years ago, I was amazed going to sports events and it being about 50-50 in terms of the people in the stadiums, people watching it, the conversations in offices. So it is really weird to me that this was considered niche.
Yeah, and it reflected differently on air. They were only 4% coverage of female sports and 50% of the fans.
Yeah. And I think we saw the gist came in at a really opportune time. They'd kind of seen the tides turning, but actually they were part of the change and they were part of what
They felt
helped.
like they were a big part of the change.
Absolutely, like really like stepped up. So if we look at kind of the rise of women's sports, you're looking back to like 2010, some women started getting contracts for playing sports. It's where it really first started, where women could actually play sport professionally. It could be your actual job. But 2012 Olympics, London, first time every country had at least one female athlete. Skip forward, Paris, 24, 50-50 athletes, male, female.
Like what a change.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say, yeah, so the GIST were in there early. They were helping change the game. I would say 2024 is probably where we saw the mainstream media kind of get on board. So not just the Olympics, but you had the Caitlin Clark effect. So you started seeing women's basketball start to properly get a following, like 1 million viewers per game for 22 games, like more than a lot of the men's college games at the time.
I mean, because incredible athleticism wins every time.
Yeah, and being able to show personalities through the media, like not just incredible on court, but also a personality has some things to say and an outlet to be able to say it. And then also that year, 2024, first time female sport broke 1 billion in revenue. So like, kind of here I am, we're mainstream now.
That's interesting because that really coincides with where the GIST really saw their revenue jump as well. In like 2022 to 2024, they saw a 20 times multiple of their revenue over those 2 years, which is really significant because it came on the backs of like some incredible partnerships, right? You had brands like the NBA and Nike partnerships really leaning in, and like that stuff had historically gone to mega networks.
Yep.
So the fact that it was going to this independent,
female-led,
young entrepreneurs. These are women that on all three of them, by the way, 30 under 30, same year.
Yeah.
Another rising tides raise all ships moment.
Yeah.
I loved that they got there together.
Yeah.
And really went for it together.
I think so. This year they're an official partner with the Winter Olympics. Obviously, an amazing achievement for them. And I think what's really key for them, and when we talk about kind of purpose revolution, is that they identified this niche. And I have to say, although they have risen with women's sports, their whole thing from the beginning was 50-50 representation. So when it comes to the actual content they produce, it's men's and women's sports. It's just that they're catering to a female audience and broader, but really that's where they kind of took their analysis, took their data, took their understanding. And they started with a newsletter. And that is still the core part of their business, being able to kind of one-on-one own the rails, as we say, like they are the distribution for their content. And then over time, they expanded into other kind of distribution channels, into audio, podcasts, into social, video, things like that, and in-person events.
It is so important, I agree with you, to own the rails, because when you have your core audience with a high engagement, and they wouldn't buy their audience lists, by the way. This is what makes their growth, what they have been so transparent about, really impressive, because they did not buy their growth. They worked so hard for every bit of it to keep that like stickiness with their consumer and their reader, so that when they did go wider with their products, they had that really strong connectivity through their community and that high referral rate and transfer of trust that came with it, which was like so key.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the ultimate way for sustained growth, because you're going sort of deep and then wide. It's the octopus. Somebody is going to call me out for that.
Yeah, I think that trust is the key. And when you're talking about kind of them increasing their revenue, they did it with their consumers in mind. So yeah, they have some ads in there, but a lot of their opportunities for brands are partnerships, they're integrations, they are truly like enhancing what the consumer is reading, watching, listening to. It's not pop-ups, it's not interruption, it's enhancing the core product that they're delivering.
They were very bootstrappy early on and had very limited budgets. They're Toronto natives as well, so very cool story there. And right in this neighborhood, they would do, where we're recording in the studio, they would do street art, like murals
chalk, yeah.
and chalk things in order to get new subscribers into the newsletter. And we're really thrifty with the way that they targeted out their community. And we talked about the importance of community.
They built it with that in mind, that like best friend, that community side. So like when they first launched the newsletter, they talk about the gisters. So gisters are the people that are obviously reading and commenting and listening. They really wanted to build that community. So not only the physical community, the like in the actual kind of real world, I guess, but also through sport, finding a community where people didn't have to speak the jargon, didn't have to remember all of the names of the team or who the manager is and all these things, which is something that always gets me caught up, because I'm, especially with my husband, he rolls his eyes at me. He's like, we are literally watching this every night and you still can't name them. I'm like, yep, my brain does not need that information, but I know they were really good. And it's that kind of everyone's welcome. You just have to be interested in sport.
I just think understanding the conversation in a way that I can have a conversation with other sports fans to find that common ground. Sports, so much better than talking about the weather.
Yeah, but often one of those first conversation starters, it really like opens up your opportunity to network, to make connections. Like it is, especially in North America, just such a fundamental part. I love their kind of summaries. They do a really good job of giving you just what you need to know so that you can have a conversation. And then you can click through and listen or read all of the rest of the information. You can like go as deep as you want, or you can just take the newsletter, open it, have a little read. I think they purposely aim to try and make each newsletter readable in like 4 or 5 minutes. Like that is the core of the premise. And also, obviously, it's free. Like making it as accessible as possible was always like the core part of their business.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely proven, because by 2024, they had over 1 million gisters in the newsletter. And referrals were a huge part of their growth strategy, and how they were able to get there by incentivizing like really fun referral conversations and things like that. They're a fun company, and I think when they've become an Olympic partner, which their views right now must be through the roof, because we are in Olympic Palooza at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of an Olympic junkie. I've been to I went to the 2010 Olympics with my son. He was literally a few months old, strapped him to my chest, and off we went. And I have to tell you, sports fans are incredible. Yeah. Like it just didn't matter where you came from, what your background was, what your socioeconomic position was.
Yeah.
Sports fans come together over sports.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about The Gist is they get that tone,
Yeah.
right? It's that conversation that they tell us about, as opposed to the stats, the hard numbers that the really true diehard fans, by all means, that want to get really gritty, can get into, and like you said, go as deep as they want. But for the rest of us, we just want to feel the moments,
Yeah.
be part of sports because of that infectious feeling that sport gives you when you're part of a community.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's The Gist. I need to double check this, but someone had reached out on TikTok or Instagram somewhere to say, hey, my dad's near Milan and I think he would love to go to the Olympics. I've bought him some tickets, but can anyone get him access, like from a media point of view? I think it would be really fun to like show him the ropes. And The Gist jumped on that and they took this person's dad to the Olympics, and he did a day in the life content on their like Instagram stories. He posted all these videos and it is incredible. I recommend everyone to look it up. But it's that feel, exactly. It was this person's dad that is a sports fan, and the person had said, look, they're such a big fan of women's sport. They're such a big kind of enthusiastic sharer of women's sports. I think it would be great for them to be able to comment on the women's sports happening at the Olympics. And oh my God, it's incredible content and it's gone so viral. It's so good.
The dad of the Olympics.
Yep,
oh my
that's from The
gosh.
Gist.
I love this segment. I didn't even know this was a Gist thing.
Yeah.
I totally know the segment you're talking about. Yes, we have to like cue this one in because it is so good. So much love.
This is the best of the best.
Once again, The Gist is both men's and women's sports. But of course, they are championing women's sports when lots of other media outlets weren't. And honestly, the audience at women's sports is just so different to at men's, often because it's a cheaper price point. So it means it's more accessible. There's so many more families. It's a much more joyful and positive experience, probably because there's less of that like history of intense rivalries or, incidents that have happened, whatever, but also because of the audience. So it's a much friendlier, family-friendly place where people from opposing teams, like the fans, can sit next to each other and have a great time, where in some men's sports, that's just not the case.
I also loved this one because we tell the story of the mom and in sport and like the role of the mom in sport, and like honestly, it's a lot. And I see some powerhouse moms that are, they do all the carpooling, all the things for their kids. And that's incredible. But dads do it for their daughters too. And so you see a lot of the dads, like especially in like cheer camp, and they kind of like, they know the routines and they've been caught on film sort of like dancing along with their daughters and stuff like that. And I think that one of the best pieces of parenting advice that a dad who had a wonderful relationship with his kids gave to me whenever I became a mom was to let my husband be the car dad, to let him be the guy who did all of the driving, should he want to all of the sports things.
Sounds like great advice.
You know what, there are certain conveniences to that, but it was a really valid piece of advice because dads use that time where they're not staring directly at the child to have communication and to be part of those moments. And by giving them the opportunity, that is how he ended up having this long standing as his kids were into their 20s and everything else, and why I asked him if you had a piece of advice for me as a parent. What would that be? Because I like the relationship you have with your kids now. And he was like, it was so incredible because moms are that comfort of all the times that you fell, of all of, right, mom's love. And we talk about that. But sport is one of those things that really give that opportunity to dads who want to step up, who want to be that really highly involved parent, but don't necessarily know how to do that outside of traditional norms. And I love that this was the story that they were telling, because the impacts of that are beautiful family dynamics, and I think it's just incredible that they're showcasing this type of stuff in their content.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and we talk about the importance of family and in sport, and so it's not a far transition for us to talk about our next guest, our other feature founder, who is the co-founder of HeLa Nutrition.
Yeah, and two brands that are both built on kind of that best friend, giving trusted, whether it's advice or sports content, and both kind of taking their time to truly understand their product and their customer before they kind of expand their businesses. So I'm really excited to talk to our next guest.
Disruption isn't a buzzword, it's a blueprint. And in a world of digital noise, the smartest brands are building physical world ad units. That's why I'm so obsessed with what Deb Hall is building at Dive. They aren't just placing ads. They're bridging the gap between innovation and ROI by turning physical spaces into data-driven opportunities. If you're ready to move beyond the scroll and start architecting real-world impact, you need to be at the table with Dive. Visit divebillboard.com and see the future for yourself.
Regan, welcome to the suite. Thank you so much for joining us.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
We've been talking about the purpose revolution, and I think HeLa is like the epitome of that. Having not used the product, Nikki is a massive fan, but having not used the product, please tell me a bit more about it.
Okay, so HeLa Nutrition is a line of wellness products that we founded to be the top quality and cleanest products on the market. Our goal was just to create a brand that could fit easily into people's lives and could enhance their general wellness.
And you specifically chose to manufacture in Canada, right?
Yes, we manufacture in Canada. The quality of our products is very, very important to us. I come from a regulatory and quality background in the industry, and to meet Health Canada's high standards, the easiest thing I could think to do was just to keep our manufacturing in Canada, control the supply chain, make sure the warehouses we use, the co-packers, were all certified by Health Canada standards. And that was just the best way for us to do it.
Yeah. You say easiest, but also obviously there's more margin to be had when you offshore.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, if we were going to manufacture offshore, we could definitely do it for cheaper. But then we'd probably have to do like further testing within Canada, within our own guidelines. And I didn't have the same trust. Just from working in the industry for probably about 20 years now, I just didn't have the same trust as offshore as I do for the Canadian companies. I know the high standards that Health Canada holds them to and the natural health product industry. So I was just very adamant about trying to co-pack our products in Canada to live up to our high standards.
Yeah, and that's all part of like that trust, that purpose of the whole brand anyway. So.
Exactly. So the quality is top tier. Premium ingredients are very important to us, sourcing each ingredient ourselves to make sure they're at our high standards, co-packing them in very regimented, high quality facilities, certified, and all of that was very pertinent to building the brand.
Yeah.
So tell us about you and your partner for just 1 second, because this is a very fascinating one for me. As somebody who's grown up in the family entrepreneur zone and left, and then actually as an entrepreneur, one of the companies that I have is founded with my husband, so I'm back in it. But your story is also very family oriented.
Yes, definitely. So my business partner in HeLa is also my sister-in-law. So it's my husband's sister. So we're both similar in that we love the wellness industry. She's a dietitian. I'm a naturopathic doctor. So we spent so many years talking about what to do to improve our health and our families and our clients. And our friends always ask us questions. What kind of product should we use for this and that? And people were asking us all the time about what the best protein powder to take was. And both of us were like, well, that protein powder tastes really good, but it's full of really long list of crappy ingredients. Or this powder is really healthy, but it tastes pretty crappy and we wouldn't want to recommend that. So like, what do we do? And so we decided that we're going to create our own line of products, starting with a protein powder. So Amy still is a working registered dietitian, sees patients all the time. She knows exactly what clients are looking for. I've been, as I've told you, working in the health industry for many years, doing consulting for brands, helping them to build their brands, sell their brands in Canada, help their products get licensed, labeling, formulations, anything you can
All
kind
the
of
technical stuff.
think of.
She's like the data background nerd for this industry.
Yes.
And Claire and I have bonded many years ago when we worked together over our total data nerding.
My education as a naturopathic doctor, so I'm really savvy about ingredients and functions and how ingredients work together and how best to help somebody enhance their health. So Amy, my sister-in-law, and I decided to build this brand together as family members, and it's been amazing.
I love that you and your sister-in-law have like a common connection of like me and my sister-in-laws have such wildly different careers. One is a vet, one is in physics, like astrophysics, and then I'm in marketing. Like that, I have not figured out any correlation between any of those. But you were saying in terms of like working with brands and the ingredients and being able to say the right things, I guess, in the packaging. What would be like the big red flags that you've seen when a business has been trying to like cut costs in that work? Like
cut costs, like people want to make really outlandish claims on products all the time, and it's like you're not allowed. There's no research on that ingredient. Making that claim, but I read on TikTok that it says this. Well, it might say that on TikTok, but there's no human clinical trials to actually prove that. Like in terms of ingredients, so making sure labels are compliant, making sure if you want to have a certain claim that you have certain ingredients at certain levels as well. So certain people, a lot of companies will put in a little sprinkle of an ingredient and be so excited about having that ingredient in their product, but really the ingredient isn't at levels enough to support a claim associated with it. So, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And you guys, because you really lean into total transparency on your labels.
Yes.
And it's something I actually love about your product because I read all labels for everything that comes into my house, as does my husband. And he does most of the shopping now in our house, I'm not going to lie. And when he had to start reading every label for the allergens that were for me and the kids, he couldn't believe the fillers and things that he was finding, or the secret proprietary blends. That he's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, in the US, you're allowed to list proprietary blends, like you're kind of allowed, but in Canada, you definitely can't. In Canada, you have to have full ingredient transparency. You need to list every ingredient in any type of blends and the amounts of them and what the type extract is. And so it takes away a lot of that guesswork in terms of what's in the blend. So people will, oh my God, all the time, friends and family will send me Amazon shots of products in the States. Is this good? I'm like, well, I don't know if it's good because it says proprietary blend on it. So I don't know if the amount of the ingredient, the right ingredient extract is in it to have the benefit. And I also don't know the amount of that ingredient if it's high enough to actually be efficacious. So can't help you there.
Yeah, and you started with like the fewer ingredients, fewer products. So you said you started just with a protein powder.
Yes, so we identified a need right away with protein powder. Everyone needs more protein, especially as, Amy and I are in the demographic of aging women, wanting to aging vitally, but aging women wanting to stay young and stay youthful as we age and keep our vitality and muscle mass, and our protein needs really increase as we age, and it's hard to get enough in your day from your general diet. So we thought we'd start with a really good protein powder that tasted amazing, but also had only clean ingredients that we could definitely recommend to friends, family, patients, that you wouldn't be scared to share with your children because there's no, extra supplements in there that might be dangerous for them. So we kind of went full throttle on the protein powder to like 2 years of working with co-packers, sampling, taste testing, getting the ingredients proper to get a formula that we really loved before we were able to go to market with that formula.
And then so I guess when everyone else is like, they come up with like a whole suite of things and you were like, nope, we're doing one thing properly. How long was it before you then released other products?
It was before other products after the protein. So we released protein in 2023. We didn't come out with our next product until early 2024, which was our Pure Marine Collagen Powder, which again,
my favorite.
It's like fantastic. Again, thinking about we think about our needs, what we want, what women like us want, what's going to enhance women's wellness, what's going to help this kind of demographic. So collagen's really amazing. As well as we age, our body stops producing collagen naturally. It's so important for hair, skin, nails, joint health. It also contains protein in it. It's a really great item to add to your daily coffee or to your daily smoothie or whatever, however you're going to take it. And, I was telling Nikki the other day, our protein powder we designed to be as allergen friendly as possible. So nut-free, gluten-free, grain-free, kosher, all the things. But then there's always that person who has a sensitivity to pumpkin, which we have pumpkin seed in our protein. And we combine different plant ingredients in our protein powder to make sure we have all 9 essential amino acids. So it's a complete protein. So, but there's always that person who has sensitivity to pea or hemp or what have you. So our collagen powder actually is a single ingredient, marine collagen powder sourced from Nova Scotia right here in Canada. Then also co-packed in Canada and packaged in Canada, so it's completely Canadian. And with that one single ingredient, all those people that had those sensitivities, those plant ingredients in the protein, it could help them get their protein fix and their collagen without having those allergens in place.
Yeah, so you really thought about it.
Yeah.
Took your time, I guess, learned from what you were hearing from the protein powder in terms of certain people were disappointed they couldn't take it, and then develop your next.
Yeah, we wanted to have some to enhance the population, but also have something you could add on to the consumers who already were taking the protein powder, because you could add it as well to your smoothie together with the protein. You could have it separately in your coffee, or just another ingredient you could have. And then, so that was in early 2024. And then by the summer of 2024, we launched our organic prebiotic inulin powder, which is a gut health product. Helps your microbiome, helps your digestion. And again, aging women start to have digestive issues.
I also think is really interesting because we talk, there's so much research about gut health and brain health and the interconnections of that. And especially in that perimenopausal, menopausal aging women demographic that I proclaim to know nothing about, but I totally know everything about. And the correlation that happens as the estrogen drops
100%.
And how much more important gut health has become in that conversation. And so it's interesting because it felt like a really interesting add-on when I first thought about the product to your suite. But as I understood, you were very deliberate about a family-first product line that you even said just now that you could let your kids have the protein. There wasn't anything in there that they shouldn't have as part of a daily balanced diet. So in that case, you're like, well, if that is the case, then women are of family age. They're in that aging demographic. You're following your consumer is basically what I'm saying, and extending that lifetime value that you have with your consumer.
That's exactly what we're doing. So the gut health, as you talked about, people in general have gut health issues, and your microbiome, as we know, is increasingly so important to your immune health, to your cognitive health, to your general health. But especially as we age, as estrogen levels drop, your gut health becomes more important because digestive health gets compromised, and especially regularity gets compromised by the slowing estrogen levels. So our inulin fiber really helps to help women have their digestive health and their regularity, to feel good and to feel like they can walk into their day feeling not bloated and gassy. And
is that a particular fiber?
Yeah. So inulin works in a different way than a typical fiber, like let's say a flax or a psyllium seed.
Yeah.
Because what inulin does, it's actually food for the gut bacteria in your digestive system. So it's you have probiotics. Inulin's considered a prebiotic. So it feeds the bacteria that's in your gut to help them thrive. And that is what helps the digestive process. But it also contains 4 grams of fiber per scoop.
Ooh.
I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
I know.
And our protein powder, if we go back to that, it wasn't just protein powder. We thoughtfully designed the protein powder to make sure that each scoop had both 22 grams of protein and 5 grams of fiber, thinking about digestive health, thinking about regularity in women, as well as getting their protein, but also making you full. So if you want to have a protein shake in the morning, if you have just the protein and let's say some water, it's not going to have the satiety that you might have if the fiber wasn't included in it.
Yeah. And as somebody who can't eat a lot of heavy calories in the morning, or I get really sluggish.
Okay.
I need calories, I need protein, I need energy. I think that's how I ended up in first getting introduced to your product through my friend Deb, because we were having this conversation about protein, as women of a certain age do. I understand, and we were talking about needing something clean, obviously gluten-free, and things like that. And of course, she had many of those same symptoms or allergens that I had, so it was an easy person to talk to, and it led me to sort of think: is a lot of your business referral based? Is a lot of your business in this space? Do you find that it is that friend network?
Yeah. So 100%. When we started our brand, we completely reached out to all of our networks. We we first began, but even now we hit so many events in Toronto in our own individual communities. We have this, like, Amy and I have this local delivery program. So basically, and we laugh because so many people in our, meaning that within 5Ks of our house, we'll personally deliver it to your homes.
Oh, nice.
Within 5K of each of our houses. And she lives near Dufferin or Rutherford. I live near Bathurst, Eglinton. And we laugh because so much of our consumers come within those two communities where we actually live. And we have a warehouse, we have a 3PL that handles our, national, international distribution, but we have so many clients within our two communities that we deliver to directly. So it was definitely intentional to develop a product that people within our own communities and within our own friend groups would enjoy.
I love that. Suggests to me that in Toronto, people do actually speak to their neighbors.
Yeah.
Because it means that, your community is actually working in that way.
We do a lot of events. We do a lot, we were just at an event recently at a high school that like kids in our community go to. And we were at the high school, doing a vendor event. We knew a lot of the parents. We're always kind of out, and we have a good friend of HeLa is a woman who created this event called the Gluten-Free Garage. And she's been a supporter of us from day one. I can go shout out to Ronnie Lynn. And we go to the Gluten-Free Garage, this amazing event she's built that has thousands of guests every single year. And then we come in and we see people we know from the gluten-free community, from our community, and they have learned to know about HeLa, and it's just been wonderful. Really
cross-pollination.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else that you do from a marketing point of view? You're very active, social.
Yeah. So we started off, as you're saying, with friends and family, definitely referral-based community events, which we still do. And people call us up all the time. We need singles for a gift bag for our event. And if the event resonates with us, we're so happy to help the event. We give raffle prizes. We're very charitable.
You really decided to formulate HeLa around the family as opposed to the 1% athlete. How did you get to the point where that was the untapped ROI?
Yeah, so for us, I think about we were just thinking about ourselves and what we need and what our families need and what our clients need. And we are the demographic. What do we need as women? And we're ingredient savvy. We're healthy. We work out. We care about our bodies. We make decision-making power. We are decision makers for our families. We are deciding what's going into their mouths and for our husbands. And there's so many women like us that are really strict on what they're bringing into their homes and into their bodies that we felt we could really cater towards, because people are thinking they're buying healthy products potentially at stores, and I'm not going to name names of products, but a lot of women are on certain trips of protein shakes and certain products, and I know that they're not good. I know that they're full of cane sugar and seed oils and xanthan gum and all sorts of ingredients that I would never take. And so we wanted to create products that could cater to people who are more interested beyond just like a loud health claim on the front of the package, but more ingredient savvy to get the best possible product.
If we're on this purpose revolution right now, and if you think about where your brand is 5 years from now, you're a household name. What do you think is the number one thing that you would love to see in sort of debunked from, or that's been mainstream, but it shouldn't be there? What does that feel like to you?
Yeah, I feel like the main thing to debunk is products that purport to be healthy that have a really crappy ingredient list. I think that would be wonderful if really front label claims were congruous with ingredients on the back of the package.
That feels significant.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing that you kind of assume as a consumer that is not in this space. You assume that already exists. You assume that people can't make claims in that way.
You can, but you can have a high fiber product that has high fiber, but also is manufactured in the form of a Smartie. Or a chocolate bar. They can have fiber, and that's okay. But someone should know it's a chocolate bar containing fiber as opposed to a health product.
Yeah.
My mind literally blew as you said that. I was like, that is so true. I immediately started going through the mental Rolodex of the products that I consume, and was like, yeah, sometimes I do take something and it tastes like a candy bar.
Yeah.
And it looks like a candy bar. It's
and
designed.
It probably is a candy bar.
It probably is a candy
it is
bar.
nuts, and you're getting your fiber and you're getting your protein or whatever.
It just has nuts in it.
It might have in it, but then you're also getting the sugar. You don't be fooled that you're taking the good with the bad in those situations.
Yeah.
So what I hope is that HeLa becomes a name that you can trust to deliver you the best products.
Seems like a pretty purpose-driven revolution. I like that. So I guess if you've got lots of people buying all 3 products so far, what's the next thing that you're introducing?
So the next product we're introducing, we're super excited about it. We're launching an amazing creatine powder. And I know like everyone's loving creatine. It's huge right now. It's really important to help maintain muscle mass as you train, to help you. I mean, maintaining lean muscle mass is basically the key hack to healthy aging because you will remain vital as you age, your metabolism stays strong, prevents falls, helps recovery, and creatine is really important to that as the research is more and more showing.
It really, I started researching creatine. I think I was telling you this when we spoke last. I started researching creatine a lot after both my parents had strokes.
Yeah.
And understanding what it did neurologically, as well as for muscle performance, because when you have a stroke, obviously your muscle performance becomes quite impacted. And it was amazing. Then I started taking it. Now my husband also takes a creatine. So I'm very excited to hear about it. A clean,
Really clean.
a clean creatine coming onto the marketplace.
Yeah, we're basically sourcing this like incredibly high quality micronized creatine from these incredible German manufacturers that we're like the ingredient we're shipping in. We're co-packing it here in Canada, of course, but I pride myself on really sourcing out the best possible ingredients from the best companies to then use in our products.
Love. So last question for you is our what we call our legacy question. And we ask our guests this, not for health and not for wealth, but for life. If you had one piece of advice for our listeners today to carry forward with them, what would that be?
The piece of advice would be to make sure that your life has a really good balance from family, friends, joy, fun, in addition to your work. Because that the only way every aspect of your life is going to work the best if you have the others in play. So if you're like lacking joy, how good of a mother can you be? If you're lacking really quality time with your family, you're going to feel guilty when you're working. So I think that you really have to have a good balance.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah. Find balance.
I think quite a lot of people could take that piece of advice and improve their lives for sure. And then what we also do is we have our previous guest leaves behind a question for our guests.
We'll ask you to leave one behind as well for the next guest. But
Okay, so production team, can you please roll back our last guest?
Have you ever wanted to invent something but didn't? What was that invention?
Okay, something my niece and I years ago thought about inventing, it was just a funny, silly idea, was like making pajamas with your dog's picture on it. And then we thought it was so funny and silly, but now I see that all the time on Amazon. You can send in your dog's picture and have it all over your pajamas, and we should have done it.
That would have been an alternative
It could have been
career.
dog like millionaires. Yeah.
hey, listen, pet fame is real. Pet fame is real.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. Now you need to leave behind a question for our next guest, please.
If there's one age in your life that you could return to for an hour, what age would it be?
Ooh. I actually super love that question.
Yeah. I saw a post that was like your 80-year-old self went back and you were 41 for a day and you have all the like little kiddie paws and they're wasting time and they're screaming and shouting and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. And I was like, I'm not even that age yet. Why am I sad about this? Like, I have the little screaming children.
I know. People appreciate it. It's so nice.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it too.
So let's distill the sixth sense for our listeners. We've seen how integrity scales and the purpose revolution for both HeLa and for the gist. So let's sum it up.
Number one is always sovereignty is the strategy. Both HeLa and the gist absolutely knew that having their own pipeline directly into their clients, owning that distribution was so critical to their business, and I couldn't agree more. The blueprint here is always going to be don't rent your audience. Own the pipes. Sovereignty is the only way to protect your brand's soul and its margins. Number 2, niche is the global majority. We've seen this time and time again, but definitely see this here today. They both looked at the ignored reality of the female sports fan and the family with sensitive digestion. They saw opportunities where everyone else saw a secondary market. Our blueprint here, use your IQ to look at the friction points that everyone else has accepted as normal, because that's where the blue ocean of ROI exists. Number 3, de-risk the disruption. Listen, math is our friend. Trust the numbers. The Gist did not guess. They made sure that when they got to 1 million subscribers, that they were able to validate that women's sports was a powerhouse, and they were transparent about that. Regan and Amy use their doctor knowledge to really make sure that there's total label transparency behind product that they can stand behind. They use data as truth serums to bludgeon institutional biasism. Your blueprint here, you don't need to win an argument with opinions when you can win it with math. Transparency isn't just a value. It de-risks strategy. Number 4, RCQ, contextual intelligence. Your contextual intelligence is the moat that protects your business. The Gist knows their readers, the Gisters. They aren't just stats and consumers. They weren't purchased. They knew that their readers were people looking for social currency. And Regan knows her customers. They aren't just protein buyers. They're busy parents who needed a product that protected their family's biology. So our blueprint here, the why and the context matter more than the what. If your product doesn't respect the human moment, it's just noise. Number 5, operationalize empathy. We talk a lot about EQ being a premium feature, and time again, we see this win. The Gist's best friend tone, money, and Regan's family safe rule, where are the ultimate expressions of EQ built right into their infrastructure. Your blueprint here, empathy isn't a soft skill. It's a logistical engine. When you respect the human, you build on the compounding interest of integrity, a level of trust that no competitor can buy. And this is your lifetime value. And number 6, the unconventional move. This is the moment when you stop playing by the industry standards and you start creating rules for yourself. For the Gist, this was about saying no to the easy gambling money when that fled the communities. And for Regan, it was the hard slow of refusing high margin fillers to protect a formula. Our blueprint here, resilience isn't about hanging on. It's about the courage to choose the hard decisions when the purpose demands it. The unconventional move is the one that looks risky on the spreadsheet, but is inconceivable to the architect. Disruption isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. As our feature founders showed us today, it's about being the most relevant to the people standing right in front of you. It's about trading surface level spin for structural integrity.
The purpose revolution isn't coming, it's here. And the winners are those that appreciate that honesty isn't just good for the world, it's best for business. We'll see you in the 6.